Fill your cart at WagerTalk and Sports Memo and save 30% using coupon code SAVE30. Valid 3 days only, Wednesday, September 22nd through Friday, September 24th. Save over $10 on a 5% play. Save over $35 on a 7-day all-access package. Save over $600 on a full year of all-access and get in on every sport. Or load your cart with all of the above and save over $645. Remember, you can only use one coupon at WagerTalk and one coupon at Sports Memo per customer between now and Friday at midnight. So make sure to load your cart full and maximize your 30% savings. Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
Welcome into the best damn college football show out there, part of College Football Today on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. I am Drew Martin, your host, joined by Ralph Michaels and Robbie Veno of WagerTalk.com. We are talking college football, week number 4. Ralph, with the pen up, buddy, welcome in. How you feeling, buddy?
You know, it's amazing to watch Rob practicing where to put his pen before the show. Most people are reading over their notes. Rob's practicing his pen placement, so God bless you, Rob. Exciting week for me, Drew. I went back and looked. Last couple of years, I've only had a 5% on both Saturday and Sunday one time. I do have a 5% loaded in college football and 95% likely to have a 5% in the NFL on Sunday. So a great week to try me for a 3-day or a 7-day. Only have had 2 football 5% this year, 2-0 on those.
Check them out. Ralph Michaels. Also, guys, you get a lot of good free information. The college football logs. You can see the team plays, how they're doing both totals and against the spread on his page. That's for free. 5% up Saturday and possibly Sunday as well. So good day to check out his page there. We got Robbie Veno at Rob Veno Sports on Twitter, WagerTalk.com as well. Knows college football, NFL, MLB, it all. Rob, welcome in, buddy.
Good to be here, guys. I think for the three of us, one of our most fun times of the week. Get to talk some college football here with you guys. Always a good time. I can't believe it's week 4 already. It's unbelievable. I was looking back to see that, one of the teams that played on the 28th of August is already in their 5th game, and maybe it's UConn. But, God, to think that somebody's already played that many games is crazy.
It really is. Almost a third of the way over now? I don't even like talking about it. It's kind of sad in terms of college football season and where we're at. But, guys, we got some good information on today's show. Loaded show here. 4 plays. We're breaking them down. We got West Virginia and Oklahoma. First game up here in the Big 12, Ralph. We saw the opening lines, the Sooners minus 15 in the hook. We're seeing them as high as minus 17 right now at the WagerTalk odds screen. 59.5 down to 56 for the total. I mean, it speaks towards this West Virginia defense, and I guess towards Oklahoma versus Nebraska falling well short of that total by over 24 points, according to your logs here. What are you thinking with the Mountaineers and the Sooners on Saturday night?
Well, this is a game that clearly I'm not going to give any incredible insight because it is such a wait-and-see game for me. You know, the line is based on Oklahoma's talent, what everyone thinks Oklahoma is going to be, but they're not there yet. You look at them home against Tulane, and I could give them a pass on the Tulane game because it was supposed to be on the road. It was at home. You know, the fan wasn't the same fan base. Field was painted Tulane, but you're still a 31.5-point favorite. You win by 5, and you only have a 430 to 396 yard edge. Then what happens last week? You're a 22.5-point favorite to Nebraska. Yes, you win by 7, but you only have a 24-yard edge, 408 to 384. So in 2 games when you're supposed to be a 54-point favorite, in your 2 home games against FBS foes, you have a grand total of plus 58 yards. That's clearly not a team that I can back. Now, if you read some quotes from Lincoln Riley, We're probably a bit closer to playing some good ball. We've had some periods, and we're very close, and I think we're going to push it over the hump. What he sees in practice isn't dictating. So is that going to happen this week? We'll see. Spencer Rattler last year, he's completing 75%, but last year they stretched the field over 9.5 yards per attempt. This year they're under 8. They're at 7-7. So, I look at it, and that gives me a reason not to bet Oklahoma. So can I get to the West Virginia side? And the answer is no. They beat Virginia Tech, but Va Tech had 3 trips inside the 10, came away with no points, including having first and goal on the last drive and not scoring. Do I sound bitter like I had Va Tech? Yeah, well, I did have them. But, I look at West Virginia, and then I'm not a fan of Jarrett Dagey, the BG transfer. You look at his numbers, and they're fine, but you've played 2 home games. The Virginia Tech game, you had 18 first downs. Last year on the road, you went 0-4 straight up. This year on the road, you opened at Maryland. You lost as a favorite straight up. So I just cannot back West Virginia on the road in this case at all. West Virginia's weakness, their rush defense looks great, allowing 2.6 yards per carry, but you could say you went against the Maryland team that ran the ball, VT that was behind and had to throw the ball, and Long Island, which just makes your stats look good. So I think Oklahoma is going to be able to pass the ball. I think they move it a little bit higher. My slightest leans would be Oklahoma and West Virginia, but we are talking bottom of the barrel, basically me flipping a coin opinions.
And Robbie, what do you like in here in Norman Saturday night? We talked about this way, and the total has moved down. So if you're looking towards the over, I guess you could speak towards a little bit of a better number at 56. But interested in your opinion, both sides and totals here, Robbie.
Yeah, I think as discussed previously, Drew. Last week, Nebraska strategically came in with a defensive game plan, and that game plan was umbrella defense, 2 high safety, shell defense. In Oklahoma, you're going to have to run the football or throw passes underneath all day long because we're not giving you anything explosive. And Spencer Rattler and company want to be explosive. They want to push the ball downfield. And for the first half, there was one drive where Lincoln Riley called predominantly run plays to see if he could loosen Nebraska up a little bit, but they couldn't run the football because Nebraska was stout enough at the line of scrimmage to stop them from doing so. West Virginia and Nebraska have a lot of similarities personnel-wise on defense in that West Virginia is pretty stout at the line of scrimmage with the Stills kid and the rest of those guys. The thought process went through my head, will they take that blueprint when they watch tape and say, we're going to go in there and do the same thing? You're not going to get anything over our heads. Go ahead and earn it. The problem with West Virginia is that they're a little bit more aggressive philosophically than is Nebraska. But it still doesn't mean that Vic Koenig, the defensive coordinator, can't play that way. And here's a guy who can play some 3-3-5, drop 8 into coverage and make it hard on Rattler and company. If they do so, Drew, the real question becomes, did Oklahoma learn anything from last week? Do they have ways to counteract that this week that they didn't show up with last week? The second half, they had a few good drives, but it really wasn't Oklahoma. And still, they gained 408 total yards in that football game. Another problem for Oklahoma, which we'll see if West Virginia can do effectively, was their starting field position was miserable. Oklahoma did not have a single drive all game long. And remember now, Nebraska playing that shell defense and Nebraska on offense saying we're going to run the football and shorten the game, that led to only 9 possessions for each team. That's it. Oklahoma with 9 possessions. They're used to getting 14, 15 a game. They didn't get it last week. And those possessions started, 7 of them at their 25 or worse, all 9 of them at the 35 or worse. They really didn't have good starting field position all game long. So all of that has to go right. And even when it did for Nebraska, they couldn't win. They came close. They did cover, but they couldn't win. And West Virginia, can they duplicate that? Can they replicate it? They probably could. Am I willing to take my chances on it? I'm really not. And a lot of what Ralph said is so true. This number's based on reputation. I'm kind of guilty of it because as I lower Oklahoma's power rating, and I don't know how far Ralph has adjusted his, but as I lower it, maybe I'm not lowering it enough each week due to thinking that, there's still Oklahoma and the personnel is there. But it has been adjusted fairly decently, and you still come up with a number in this range. So I don't know that I'll get involved, Drew, but I kind of agree with the people that have played under. At 56.5, though, you've lost some good numbers. You've lost 57. You've lost 58. And I probably can't get there either. So this is a very interesting game. We're going to learn a lot more about Oklahoma this week, I think, than we will West Virginia. West Virginia is not a good offensive team. And remember this. Ralph pointed out Jarrett Doege, the quarterback of West Virginia. He's not Adrian Martinez. Last week, Oklahoma defensively had to have a spy on Adrian Martinez because of his running ability. There'll be no spy on Jarrett Doege. It'll just pin your ears back, shut down Letty Brown, and then come after the quarterback. They may be able to force some turnovers, which could help them score points here.
Drew, to answer Rob's question, Rob, I've dropped Oklahoma 4 points since the opener. I actually had them the number 2 team, right behind Alabama in my opening power ratings. I had them, I think, tied with Clemson. So, both Oklahoma, Clemson, and Ohio State, all 3 of those have taken a dive down in that 4 or 5 point range, which is amazing. We're so used to seeing these teams come out at the beginning of the season, and even Alabama I have down 2 points now, after Florida manhandled them on the line of scrimmage. So, it would be nice not to know in September who the 4 teams in the playoffs are going to be, and might be one of those years.
And I'll say this real quick before we get on here, Drew, because you saw me looking over to the side here because I'm checking my own numbers, and I know we don't use the same numbers exactly to rate teams, but Oklahoma, for me, started the season as a 67. They're down to 63, so that's exactly 4 points, just what you're saying yours were. So we're in sync there, and the other squads have gone down as well. Ohio State down, Clemson down. The only team that's gone up is Georgia of those top teams. Alabama's come down as well.
All right, talking about top teams, a rivalry here. Next one up in the SEC East, at least used to be a top rivalry, the Tennessee Vols and the Florida Gators. Robbie, we're seeing the Gators, what they opened minus 19.5. We're seeing shops anywhere from minus 20 right now to minus 18.5, talking about the Florida Gators. So a little bit of an opinion here in the marketplace, 63.5 the total. So we have seen some over money as we're talking midweek. You liking anything here? Tennessee Volunteers, Florida Gators in the Swamp Saturday night.
I'm in agreement with the over, Drew, for a couple of reasons. And I'm even so far as to say I might even like the first half over better, as well as the full game. But we'll get into that in a minute. I think if you're betting Florida, the one thing you worry about is their mindset off of the Alabama loss. They played really hard. Again, the more I watch Florida the last couple of years, the more I start to respect Dan Mullen as an offensive head coach. I mean, I don't know that I had that kind of respect for him at Mississippi State, even though he had some good offensive with Dak Prescott. But this guy is so versatile, and he can adjust to any set of personnel that he has. And right now he happens to have the set of personnel or the type of personnel that he works best with, and they're showing it. They didn't even have Anthony Richardson last week, but Emory Jones went crazy running the football. How often do you see Alabama absolutely dominated at the line of scrimmage? I mean, Florida runs for 258 yards, 6 yards a carry. Alabama gains 91 rushing yards, 3.4 a carry. For Florida, over the course of the season now, they're averaging 340 rushing yards a game, only allowing 92.7. Granted, there's a game in there where they're certainly playing an overmatched opponent, but the numbers rushing the football the way Dan Mullen likes to with a dual threat quarterback, they're overwhelming at this point in time. They're winning the line of scrimmage by plus 5.1 per carry. Tennessee, some of the same similarities, guys. They've been a real good run defense so far, only allowing 54.3 rush yards per game. But they haven't faced a dual threat quarterback like Emory Jones, somebody that can make plays with their legs, and somebody who has plays designed for him to make plays with his legs. And Anthony Richardson is more than likely to be back this week. From what I read, you're going to see both of these guys. So with Richardson back in the mix and his 25 yards per carry, Florida's quarterbacks are going to be a problem for Tennessee, or at least something that they will be going through this week in prep, and something that they're going to have to deal with. And I don't know that you figure that out in practice against your scout team when you see that speed on the field. So I think that's going to be a tough matchup for Tennessee. Remember, they played Kenny Pickett for Pittsburgh, but he doesn't run the football. He throws it. The other side of the coin, Hendon Hooker, your new starting quarterback for Tennessee because Joe Milton's out, he's multidimensional too, and he can run the football. I think he was the leading rusher for UT last week. So Florida will have to contend with that a little bit on their defensive side. But the reason why I like over most of all, Drew, is the tempo that Josh Heupel plays at. Again, Florida, these teams, even though they're SEC teams, they don't see this fast of tempo that Josh Heupel runs. Just for example, in the first half of the Pittsburgh game and the first half of their game last week against Tennessee Tech combined, there were 16 first-half possessions, 8 per side. Remember, I just got through telling you that Oklahoma, West Virginia had 9 for the game each. They each had 8 in the first half. The Pittsburgh game with 16 first-half possessions, it doesn't matter if 4 of those are 3-and-outs. The other 4 are probably scores. The Pittsburgh-Tennessee game was 27-20 at halftime based on the fact that they just kept getting the ball back because the game moved so fast and Pitt went with them. Florida's not going to back down from pace. Dan Mullen never has. They'll go with this. I think there's going to be a ton of possessions here. If Tennessee is going to surprise the Florida defense, if Florida comes in a little lackadaisical off the start because of the Alabama hangover from last week, then that increases their chances to score points in the first half. Josh Heupel is known to pull a few things right out of the gate. So I think first half over 31 when I saw it yesterday and played it was very low. I think it gets over that, and I think it gets over full game as well because in the end, Tennessee's not going to be able to stop the Florida rushing attack. And if Tennessee gets their share of first half points, they may calm down a little bit in the second half for multiple reasons, including if this game gets out of hand. I think that the full game still gets over. So give me both sides of this over, Drew, first half and full game.
All right, good stuff, Robbie. And Ralph, coming to you next, looking at this game, Florida showed really well against Alabama. I mean, they didn't win the game outright, but they covered the game easily coming off of that FAU and USF game where, there was just a lot of questions in my mind just because you're kind of going up against the little brothers in your state. But on the Tennessee side of things, Ralph, it's almost after watching him play, like, how was Joe Milton the starter? Watching him throw the first couple games, his accuracy let a lot to be desired. And then Hooker coming in, I almost felt like he should have been the starter anyway, so they get some good quarterback production. But really, we're going to see what happens this week against a good Florida Gators defense. And to Robbie's point, they've been running a lot of up-tempo here with the new coach and Heupel, but they've been either against kind of, comparative talent, I would call it, with Pittsburgh, or the much better team where it's easier for your offense to control tempo when you're a lot more talented team. It's not going to be the case in the Swamp Saturday night. That's what I worry about in terms of the tempo being, ultra up tempo. I'm not sure if we're going to get that this time around, Ralph, but interested in your overall thoughts.
Well, let's put it in perspective, guys. Milton went against Pittsburgh. Hooker went against Tennessee Tech. Pittsburgh would be a 45-point favorite against Tennessee Tech. So we are talking the absolute night and day. So, yes, Hooker looked fabulous. Milton actually practiced some this week. I did not read that he was out, but I was reading that the coach hadn't decided. So, perhaps Rob's got a little more updated. But, I look at Tennessee and I just have to say, okay, you played Bowling Green, one of the bottom 5 FBS teams. You played Tennessee Tech. You won those 2 games 94-0. You haven't traveled yet. You lost to Pittsburgh, the only FCS team you had, and you were outgained by 23 yards. Yes, you were minus 3 turnovers, so if you're even in the turnover battle, you likely win that game. The concern, Rob mentioned it. The concern is, does the Alabama game cost you 2 losses? And we've seen that happen so often where a team comes close is about to pull an upset, especially a big home upset, falls short, and then the hangover carries over. One interesting, you guys both talked about how well Florida looked. Rob talked about the 258-91 rushing edge against Bama. I mean, the AP pollers took note as well. Florida actually jumped up in the polls into the AP top 10 after a loss. You could probably count on one hand the last decade how many times that has happened. So there's no secret. We know Florida has rushed 43, 44, and 46 times. We know they're rushing for 7.7 yards per carry. And Drew, while you said FAU and USF, little sisters of the poor, those are still a big step up than Tennessee played in Bowling Green and Tennessee Tech. Both of those teams would be significant favorites. So while they played lesser competition, they still played legitimate FBS Group of 5 competition. So therein is the difference. I think Dan Mullen is an excellent coach. I agree with Rob's sentiments. I think Florida comes out strong. I think Florida is going to be able to move the ball. I think Tennessee on this first road game with fans is going to be in culture shock. I do like Florida in the first half. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Florida jumps out to an early lead, tries to run the ball in the second half just to run out the clock. But to me, you have a situation where, the eye test, I make Florida a 3-touchdown favorite over Tennessee. My power ratings say to do so. And when you have a team that can run the ball and you have a team that can stop the run, what we've seen of the Florida Gators so far, those are the teams I want to back. I will take them for the first half in case they try to work out some things moving into the second half. I like Florida minus the first half points.
Good stuff from both Ralph Michaels and Robbie Veno. 2 games left, guys. Moving down, heading to the Big Ten for our next matchup. Illinois and Purdue. We got Illinois catching 11 here. Purdue is the home team, minus 11, total of 53. And Ralph, coming to you first, looking at your logs here, which guys, I for the second time here, I need to check it out on Ralph Michaels' page at WagerTalk.com. He breaks it down great, and it's free information here. But Illinois being the team that Robbie was talking about earlier in terms of playing their 5th game here, having played Nebraska in that week 0 game and really dropping 3 straight since then. So we've seen this a bunch of times in terms of, the first game out the break and a lot of eyeballs on them. They look good. And then sure enough, their next 3, they drop straight. So I don't know what to make here of the Illini having to go on the road at Purdue to stay within doubles. You liking anything here in the Big Ten?
Well, let's look at Illinois and talk about them. You beat Nebraska in the opener. You're all excited. You're playing UTSA. What happens? Peters get hurt. You go to the Rutgers transfer. Sidikowski, you don't play well. You go to play a very good Virginia team and you get run out. And then you play a Maryland game, which the game was tied, and they lose on the last play of the game. So, it's a little bit different than Florida. Florida upsetting Alabama would have been a season maker. Illinois losing to Maryland just is disappointing, but it's not a season breaker. The expectations were low. So the question is, can Brett Bielema get this team ready? I think he can. Brandon Peters had a horrible game last week. He was 10 of 26 after missing, a game and a half for 2 games. But now he's back another week. And as much as, I think Illinois is playing within themselves. They got outgained 146 yards to Maryland. They played a very good Virginia team, and they gave up 556 yards. Those players were on the field for a lot of plays. So that's a little bit of concern for me in the second half. Purdue's going to play with pace. They played 79 plays against Notre Dame. They had 78 plays against UConn and could have ran more. And they were in the 70s against Oregon State and could have ran more. So I'm afraid of playing the game, but I like Illinois to keep it close. Purdue's best player and one of the best wide receivers in the country, David Bell, got KO'd against Notre Dame late in the game. He is in concussion protocol. He has not practiced all week. Jeff Brom said, If he doesn't practice all week and he can still suit up and he's cleared on Saturday, I'm going to play him. So that's a question mark in this game. I think David Bell moves the needle a point or two, but I still am not going to bet Purdue as a favorite. Beating UConn 49-0 doesn't impress me. Beating Oregon State in the opener was what was supposed to happen. They ended up with a 38-yard edge. Did they play well against Notre Dame? Yes, they did. But I look at Notre Dame was in a tough situation with the schedule they had and having Wisconsin on deck. That to them was a much bigger game. Biggest stat for me is just this. Purdue is 8-7 straight up as a favorite. That's the second worst record in college football over the last 3 years. Teams as favorites are expected to win. Purdue as a favorite, 8-7 straight up, let alone their ATS numbers. Now they're laying doubles. I am not going to back them. I lean Illinois, and as I said, I lean Illinois first half. This is their fifth game. The defense has been on the field an incredible number of plays. They're playing an up-tempo offense, so I could see Purdue pulling away in the second half.
Sure, good stuff from Ralph Michaels. You know, Robbie, to Ralph's point, I mean, Illinois has, been out first down, been outgained every single game this season, defense on the field a lot. But, I mean, they played better against Maryland, and they get an extra day to prepare. That was on a Friday night game. So maybe some things pointing here towards Illinois bouncing back, at least ATS to stay within doubles.
Yeah, a couple of things here that I'll piggyback on what Ralph said because I would have said them anyway. I got my numbers backwards. I had Purdue 7-8 as a favorite, but 8-7. I mean, either way, it's not good. When you're favored, like Ralph said, you're supposed to win games, and now your favorite has to win by 12. It's a lot. So right off the bat, that's a strike against Purdue. And the second thing and the most important thing is David Bell. I mean, you know, he's not the biggest name nationally. He's not the biggest name to casual college football fans. But what he is a first-round wide receiver. And with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson in the Big Ten, he might be the third best. Some might argue he's the second best. I mean, when Rondale Moore was out for most of the last 2 years, David Bell was the guy carrying that offense as far as receiving yardage is concerned. So it's a big loss if he can't play. I wonder, and I tried to think this through. I was on another show where I brought this point up to the host, and you know, David Bell has an NFL future, as I just mentioned. And if it's shaky come Saturday and Jeff Brom's saying he's going to play him, I wonder how much say-so the kid and his family has in that, knowing that, you know, if I'm not 100% right, I'm not going to take the field knowing what my NFL money is. We'll have to see. There's a lot of guesswork going into whether or not David Bell plays. But it makes a huge difference, Drew, because that Purdue offense will fall like a house of cards if he doesn't. And it'll probably light up the scoreboard if he's 100%, and he does. First off, if he doesn't play, his backup is out as well. Now, Purdue's got a wealth of wide receivers. Milton Wright's a pretty good receiver, had a bad drop last week, had a great touchdown catch. But, you know, David Bell's the guy that attracts doubles. David Bell's the guy the defensive coordinator's worried about every single day of the week as they prep for the game. Without him, things are a lot different. David Bell's your number one option. It's different for your quarterback, Jack Plummer, when he's not on the field and you need a conversion and he's not out there for you. So if he doesn't play, big drop-off for Purdue because they can't run the football. I mean, in normal cases, you would say, well, maybe they'll run it a little bit more. This team can't run the football, can't push anybody around. All they can do is throw it. They do it real well. Illinois doesn't defend it whatsoever. So if David Bell plays, you're talking about playing against a team that's given up 773 pass yards in the last 2 weeks. Tagovailoa had a big game last week for Maryland. Score was closer than statistics would show. They also gave up 280 to Texas San Antonio. They gave up 232 to Nebraska, so they can't defend the pass. David Bell's a big deal. We'll have to wait till later in the week to clear that up. If Illinois was a team that I felt halfway comfortable with throwing the football downfield, and if I felt halfway comfortable with Brett Bielema allowing this team to throw the football down the field, then I'd definitely be on Illinois because what I saw out of Purdue last week is they can't cover anybody. Notre Dame was running free through their secondary all game long. You saw the frustration on Brian Kelly's face They left points on the field, and legitimately, without overreacting, you could say they left 17 points on the field. They dropped touchdown by a receiver, a missed wide open touchdown by the quarterback, who missed 3 or 4 wide open receivers last week. Jack Cohn looked horrible in stages. So they probably left 17 out there. Kelly was frustrated with his offense. If Illinois could throw, I would say they're going to run free through that Purdue secondary, but they can't throw. You can't trust them to throw. Maybe they will have a big game, but I'm not trusting Brandon Peters and that head coach and that play calling to do so. All that being said, guys, Illinois had their moments running the football against Maryland last week, and Chase Brown and Josh McCray, the 2 running backs. Remember, they get dinged up in that game and leave the game. So Illinois was down a couple of top running backs. They're back for this week from what I've read. They may be able to run it well enough here. And Brett Bielema, despite the fact that he's kind of conservative, like in terms of an animal, he's like a tortoise when it comes to calling plays. But he's going to keep the game close for you. At least I feel like he's going to get you in one of those games where it's, one score game in the fourth quarter, and I'm getting 11.5 points or 11 points. I'd probably lean Illinois here. Like Ralph said, it's not a game that you jump to the counter with, but still hard to play the favorite. If David Bell doesn't play, it's impossible to play the favorite, and probably a lot easier to play Illinois.
All right, guys, 1 game left on the slate. We're heading to the Big 12 here for the cap for the show. We got Kansas State and Oklahoma State. We're seeing a total of 46 here, Robbie. Oklahoma State minus 6-point home favorites in Stillwater. And Robbie, looking at this one, as I tossed it over to you, Kansas State 3-0 have looked really good defensively. They got their backup quarterback, I believe, playing now. And Oklahoma State winning these games, defense, even according to head coach there, Gundy, talking about offense has won them a lot of games in the past, but their defense is winning them games this season. Both teams trending towards the under. Both teams have yet to run more than 70 plays in any game yet this season, speaking towards the low total here of college football in 2021 in the mid-40s. You liking anything in Stillwater on Saturday, Robbie?
Boy, how things have changed, right, Drew? I mean, Mike Gundy as an offensive play caller. How about these numbers last week at Boise State? His play calling, 81.4% run, 18.6 pass. Are you kidding me? Less than 20% pass plays called by Mike Gundy. It's like a whole different universe with him calling plays here. But he has no trust in his quarterback, Spencer Sanders, at this point in time, and I can't blame him. The kid hasn't improved, and for everything, Mike Gundy was extremely correct at Big 12 Media Days when he sat there and told whoever was interviewing him that this was the best defense of his tenure, the fastest defense, the most physical defense. I got a couple of buddies, and in fact, we got a guy who's not with us on the show who's an OSU alum, but I have a couple of buddies that are OSU alum. And one of them texted me the night of the game against Boise and said, this is the first time in 35 years I've been excited about the Oklahoma State defense. And that seems like what they're riding right now. When Mike Gundy chooses to hand it off almost 82% of the time, it looks like a sign of things to come, Drew, because if you go through their play calling logs, it's incrementally gotten heavier and heavier toward the run, as if the head coach is saying, I can't let this quarterback throw the football, or I don't have the same wide receiving crew that I usually have. Whatever the case is, either he's really playing possum and hiding something, or this is the way Oklahoma State's going to play, run the ball, play defense. We know that's the way Kansas State's going to play. They had Will Howard in at quarterback last week. Will Howard will be in again this week from what I read. Starter here, not ready to come back and play at this point in time. KSU has dominated the line of scrimmage in their first 3 games. It's kind of a mirror image of Oklahoma State, but KSU's numbers are a little bit better. 5.3 per carry, only 1.9 allowed. That's a plus 3.4, averaging 225.7 on the ground per game, only giving up 54.7. Stanford, Southern Illinois, and Nevada, your 3 opponents. Nevada can't run the football. Okay. Stanford had a real bad game first game, but still they don't run it real well either. They've got running back injuries. Southern Illinois is one of the best running football teams in FCS football. They held that team to 100 yards, 2.5 a carry. So the defense is probably real at the line of scrimmage, but they're the same old Kansas State. They don't try to throw it. They can't throw it. So, again, I'm painting the same offensive picture for both teams here. Neither one is likely to try and throw it. They're going to maybe try and wear each other out and see which one makes the first mistake. Your guess is as good as mine because Spencer Sanders, even though he's got more experience, is mistake prone. So under, even at that low number, Drew, I can understand why people play it. Don't know that I could lay 6 with Oklahoma State in this game just because I don't know that there's going to be enough possessions to cover a number of significance in this game. So I'd probably leave it alone on both ends, but it just is interesting to see the metamorphosis taking place with Oklahoma State. It's just not the same offensive team. You don't recognize them when you watch them last week. 21-20 at halftime, 0-0 second half. Which half do you believe? The half where Oklahoma State scored 21 or the half where they went scoreless? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Ralph, coming to you in conclusion, man. I mean, Robbie's starting to talk, putting out some good points there towards the under. I don't know. The dog, I think, is barking as well here, Ralph. I mean, not limited possessions. We're getting near a touchdown here with Kansas State. I think that they've looked good. They look really good against Nevada. Interested in your opinion in Stillwater Saturday.
Well, and again, we have to look at strength of competition when we talk about these great rush numbers. I mean, Oklahoma State, Missouri State, Tulsa, and Boise, yeah, they went to the blue. Kansas State played Nevada, a team a lot of people thought with Strong was going to be a positive, but, they got him at home and then played Stanford on the neutral. So, yes, we have good defensive numbers, but I look at pace, and you had mentioned about the number of plays each team ran. I could only go under in this. Rob, as Rob says to me sometimes, I'll just cross off the points that Rob talked about, and whatever's left I'll mention, and there's not many. Talking about you as a dog, Drew, mentioning K-State, Klieman is 11-5 ATS as a dog for the Wildcats. And I clearly look that way. I look at Kansas State. Will Howard gives them the ability to have a dual threat quarterback. Why is Spencer Sanders so bad after last year he was getting so much love? And I mentioned it on I think the Thursday edition last week of the Best Damn College Football Show. Oklahoma State missed Hubbard and Tylan Wallace, 2 NFL players, and they're not like Ohio State or Clemson where you can lose first and second round and third round players and just reload. They don't recruit to that level. So the offense is so different because they lose NFL players and they don't have NFL players to step in. So again, we're going to see a ton of runs. I think that I like under in the first half, obviously, because the first half line is a little slanted. We're getting a better number. Obviously, I think both teams will try to run the ball early to try to establish the run. So I will use the first half under, and I do lean Kansas State plus the points as well.
I like it. Good stuff for these games, guys. That does it for the 4 games we're breaking down on the show, Best Damn College Football Show. We got pens coming up as well, but want to give the guys a chance for any best plays you want to throw out there, Robbie, and really final thoughts for the show, because just love hearing your analysis, man, of different ways to point the viewers out there, college football bettors.
Yeah, real quick, just in the game we just concluded on, Drew, if there's any way, shape, or form that Oklahoma State could throw the football, Carson Strong did throw for 309 yards against Kansas State last week. If there's a weakness, it would be in their secondary. Can OSU exploit that? I'm not sure. It is amazing to me that although they don't recruit on the level of the elite teams, Ohio State, Alabama, such, I can take Oklahoma State all the way back to Hartley Dykes and say that they have just churned out skill position players. Thurman Thomas, we'll go back that far. Year after year after year after year, they've churned out skill position players that they don't seem to have right now. And I think it's all on the quarterback. I really do. Mike Gundy said that this kid made significant strides in the spring. It doesn't look that way to me. We'll see what happens in this game. As far as a play for the show, I'll go back to what we talked about out of the SEC. I really do like the Florida-Tennessee over. I think Florida themselves are good for 42 to 45 points. They could get higher than that if things really start snowballing. And Tennessee's probably good for 21 in that contest. So to me, numbers a little low, full game. I think 17-14 first half is what the odds maker has got it listed at. 31. To me, that's low. I couldn't argue anybody off either one of those plays. So just for purposes of this show, Drew, give me full game over 63. If that's what the number is. I don't even know if it's moved since we have been talking here. But that's where I'll go. I think that game is just a really, really high-scoring game.
Tennessee, Florida over 63 is available. I'm going Kansas State +6, going with the barking dog there in the Big 12. Ralph, throw it over to you, man. A most confident play and final thoughts for the show, buddy.
I'm going off the board. I want to call an outright upset for a double-digit dog, and I'm going to go NC State over Clemson. On Bet On It, a little T&A I gave, so I'm just going to share this one. And if you guys like these system or trends, make sure to catch my T&A segment with Kelly on Bet On It. When you look at college football teams, games 3 through 5, and when you look at who they've played in FBS opponents, if a team is averaging under 10 points per game and they're a favorite, they've only gone 12, 23, and 1 ATS, 34.3%. So yes, Clemson's played Georgia, an incredible defense, maybe the best in the country, had 3 points. They played Georgia Tech. They only had 14 points and 284 yards. So they're averaging under 10 points per game. Those teams, again, that have played at least 2 FBS foes and are averaging under 10 points per game and they're a favorite, 12, 23, and 1 against the spread, 34.3%. DJ is not Lawrence. What they lost with ETN and Lawrence and the O-line struggling with some changes they've had, I'm going to call for NC State plus the 10 is the best bet. And as VR would say, sprinkle a little bit on the Wolfpack on the money line.
I like it. A big underdog there from Ralph, sprinkling on the money line. Of course, the plus price, volatile sport like college football. Even sprinkle a little bit here on the Kansas State +6 and on the money line as well. But guys, great show like always. Please smash that like button. Feel free if you're watching on replay, drop any comments below. And for Ralph Michaels, Robbie Veno, I am Drew Martin. Best of luck. We'll be back next Wednesday for the best damn college football show out there. Thanks for tuning in.
Fill your cart at WagerTalk and Sports Memo and save 30% using coupon code SAVE30. Valid 3 days only, Wednesday, September 22nd through Friday, September 24th. Save over $10 on a 5% play. Save over $35 on a 7-day all-access package. Save over $600 on a full year of all-access and get in on every sport. Or load your cart with all of the above and save over $645. Remember, you can only use one coupon at WagerTalk and one coupon at Sports Memo per customer between now and Friday at midnight. So make sure to load your cart full and maximize your 30% savings. Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.